Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Mayor's District 4 Town Hall. My name is Tiffany David. I'm the Director of the Neighborhoods First Initiative in the Mayor's office. I'd like to first ask you to give yourselves a round of applause
for being for being here.
coming out on a Tuesday night. It's pretty warm outside, but you decided to spend some time with us, so we're grateful for that. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mayor Keith James, um, who will be giving an update on all the great things that are happening in the city, and is interested in hearing from you about your concerns and compliments. So, thank you.
All right, and thank you, Tiffany,
Sure.
and welcome to all of you who are here. There may be others on the way. I understand that the traffic was a bit heavy. So I'm just gonna. This is gonna be very informal. I am going to share, as Tiffany said, a few developments that have occurred in the city since we were last together. But more importantly, I want to hear from you, your questions, your concerns, and we'll take it from there. So, as you probably have heard, unless you've been under a rock or something, West Palm Beach is growing tremendously, and which is a good thing. And I think that as I look at the reasons why West Palm, I think a lot of it has to do with COVID-19, and I'm very reluctant to say good and COVID-19 in the same sentence, because 1 million people have lost their lives to that disease, but it has certainly helped, I think, West Palm evolve into the city that it is becoming. Primarily, well, Florida, as you know, is a low tax state, so the tax environment, the tax climate is certainly attractive. But I think as during the height of COVID, when people were getting comfortable with the idea of working remotely, I think it became apparent to those who were residing in more dense communities up in the Northeast, New York, Connecticut, et cetera. My tie? Okay, sorry. That it is better to be in a place where you could be outside a lot, and with our climate, that could be the case, and also and still do the job that you were hired to do, and so that led to a tremendous interest in West Palm Beach, and the developers, I think, caught wind of that, and they started coming down here and buying properties and starting to put up Class A office buildings. In 12 years, there were no Class A office building projects in the works. And currently there are, and let me make sure I get this right, there are, I believe, 12 Class A office building projects underway in our city. And I rely upon the private sector to they're the ones putting their money where their mouth is. So if they're building these office buildings, they must have an inkling that there are companies looking to relocate here. So we are uniquely positioned. Just give you a few statistics. We have about $3 billion of projects in various stages of completion in terms of private sector. Currently, we have 954 residential units under construction, 200,000 square feet of Class A office, with an additional 378,000 to start construction in the next couple of months. More than 700 residential units are currently obtaining building permits. We've got housing that's going up downtown, whether it's affordable housing for seniors, and even market rate housing. Many of you have been here for quite a while. I've been here for 35 years, and I remember when you would go to downtown and you could throw a bowling ball down the middle of Clematis Street after 5 o'clock and you wouldn't hit anyone. People would generally come downtown to work, to their office, and then they would leave and go back to the communities on the outskirts of downtown. Now we have close to 10,000 people who are residing downtown. To give you some perspective, West Palm Beach, under the latest census count, was about 117,000. So 10,000 people is a little bit less than 10% of the city's population. is now residing downtown, which is phenomenal. It's a phenomenal transformation. So the city is becoming more dense, but it's that vibrant urban core, which I believe makes us attractive as the city's, as the county's capital seat. I believe that's, and I know from conversations, that is one of the main reasons why Brightline located one of its first 3 stations in West Palm Beach, as opposed to Jupiter, Palm Beach Gardens, or even Boca, because they like that urban core. And many of the businesses that are looking to move here have a younger workforce, and those young people, they like to kind of live and work in the same locale, and also go for their entertainment, whether it's restaurants, bars, nightclubs, all in the same general location. So our urban core is a tremendous asset. The good news is, from a public safety standpoint, I mean, and thank you to the gentleman in blue, thank you for your service, and I'm sure there'll be some questions for you later. But we have managed to keep West Palm safe, knock on wood. Our last year, our rate for crimes against persons dropped 16% from the preceding year, which was the lowest reported rate in 20 years. So last year we had 21 murders in the city, which is down 22% from 2018. 21 is 21 too many. I take any death by violence in our city seriously, because inevitably it's someone's child, it's someone's sibling, it's someone's relative. So 21 is too many, but we are headed in the right direction. Even from the perspective, if you think of public safety, often it's think about our men and women in blue, but also our firefighters are very busy. So they had a record 300,000 calls, 30,000 calls last year, which is a record for them. Under my first 2 years, we were able to, when I first came in, all of the union contracts, police, fire, SEIU, and PMSA, which are the city employees, all were coming up for renewal. So we had to go through some pretty intensive negotiations with the unions. But I'm happy to say we were able to come out of that with giving each of our public safety unions record increases, and also some healthy salary increases for our office workers. What that did, particularly for our public safety unions, is they had been woefully underpaid as compared to the market in Palm Beach County and even Broward County. So we needed to make sure that we brought them up to where they should be as one of the leading public safety departments in the county. And that also helped with recruiting, because we were having difficulty retaining good police officers, good firefighters, and also hiring. So we were able to get those unions negotiated. But the good news about the growth, and I'll cut right to the chase, is that I announced a budget just last week, which is going to be balanced, but it will also reduce our millage rate by 0.15, which is the first time our millage rate has been reduced in over a decade. And that's a direct result of the growth that we're experiencing in the city and the appreciation on property values. I'm sure you all have recognized that. I don't know how many folks have knocked on your door telling you about the wonderful price they would pay for your house. That's good news. That, obviously, if you take a deal like that, you still got to find a place to stay. So the fact that you're here suggests that you resisted that temptation. But we are, to a great degree, a victim of our own success when it comes to housing. And I don't use the term anymore, affordable housing. It really is housing that is affordable. I mean, I was talking to a CEO about 4 or 5 months ago who had recently hired a human human resources officer, chief human resources officer, and was paying her, six-figure income. And so she was moving from another state, and she and her husband lost out on 5 deals to buy a home. And they finally got the word after the first couple when they started submitting offers that were in excess of asking price and all cash, but they still, even doing that, there were 3 other opportunities that they lost out on because they got outbid. And that is the world we live in today. The market seems to be cooling because interest rates are going up, but I don't think that West Palm Beach is going to see a significant downturn in demand on residential housing. And rents are going sky high as well. So the challenge for us as a city, it is nice to have this tremendous growth, but in order to maintain it, we've got to be able to increase our inventory of housing that is affordable, whether it's rental or whether it's single family, because what we will start hearing from CEOs, and we're starting to hear some of it now, is that it's a great place, love the office building, but where are my people going to stay? Where are they going to live? So that continues to be a challenge for us. But because of that tremendous growth, as well as the appreciation in home prices, we're going to be able to cut the millage rate for the first time in a decade with this upcoming budget. So that's good news. Let me just go through a couple of other things, and then I just kind of want to open it up for questions. In terms of services, you may recall that we recently, in the last year, passed it was actually a couple years ago when we passed the Parks Bond. And so as a result of that, 32 parks in the city are seeing upgrades and enhancements, which is good. We just had a discussion last night, did a State of the City on Curry Park, which is our only waterfront park in the north end of the city, where we're looking at a $35 million project there. A lot of it is going to be proceeds from the Parks Bond, but we have been successful in applying for and receiving a significant amount of grant money. But it's going to be beautiful, and that will be very exciting. Hopefully it will draw people from throughout the city, not just the north end, because as I said, it's the city's only waterfront park. With respect to transportation, which I know living out west is a major concern for us all, our concern continues to be moving people and not cars, and particularly as the city becomes more dense downtown, we're trying to do everything we can to discourage single driver car traffic downtown. So we have hired, within the last year, we hired a new traffic engineer, Javier Falcon, and he is, I like Javier because he's thinks out of the box when it comes to transportation. He agrees with me that the challenge is moving people and not moving cars. And so we're continuing to look for ways in which to come up with alternative means of transportations. For example, downtown we have something called Circuit, which are little small electric vehicles, which are, and thanks to the DDA, Downtown Development Authority, they help fund this. If you're traveling anywhere within the downtown area, if your trip either begins or ends in downtown West Palm Beach, the ride is free. So that is meant to disincentivize people from hopping in the car to just do the little errand at lunchtime, whether it's going to Publix or CVS or something like that. If it's too far to walk, arrange for a Circuit drive. And also with the younger people, many of them don't own cars. I've got a 35-year-old and a 31-year-old, and they don't own cars. I mean, they Uber or Lyft or whatever that is to get from one place to another. So we are continuing to look for. We also have our trolley system downtown. Brightline announced in West Palm Beach, one of the first 3 cities, they were interested in how do we get people that first and last mile? How do we people either get them to the station, and then once they're in our station, how do we get them to where they're ultimately going to end up? So they announced on their app, Brightline Plus, where you can either arrange, at the same time you buy your Brightline ticket, you could arrange for transportation to your ultimate destination if it's within 5 miles of the station, whether it's through one of their electric vehicles, whether it's a larger vehicle, or even arrange for what they call Bright Bike, which is a bicycling on demand system that they have. So I'm gonna stop there because I do want to hear from you and find out what your concerns are, what your issues are, particularly out here in the Western communities. Now I'm taking it as a good sign that perhaps we don't have as many people here as we normally do, because I'm sure if people were very upset, they would be knocking the doors down. So I'm gonna take that as a good sign. But let me open it up for questions now, and we have some folks here who can hopefully help you. Any questions? George.
Drinking water safety. We've had some shutdowns of water when you had chlorine. So, can you speak to how we are addressing that facility to ensure continued safe drinking?
Very good question. Very good question. And let me start with the conclusion: our drinking water is safe. But it was about a year ago, Memorial Day of last year, where we had an incident with the cyanotoxin. Cyanotoxin, right? Okay, yeah, say that 10 times fast. Cyanotoxin, which was a chemical that we tested for proactively. It is not on the list of regulated chemicals that we're obligated to, but in any event, our testing showed that the values were too high, and so yes, we did go through, and certain selected populations, senior citizens, I think infants, were encouraged not to consume the water, and that lasted for about 10 days, 15 days. As a result of that, I put together a nationwide panel of experts to help advise us as to how we could become more resilient to that. And I'm happy to say that they reported out to us, and we're working with our staff. And so we've implemented a number of improvements. A lot of it is getting permission from South Florida Water Management District as we start seeing the levels get higher, not to the level where we need to issue a water advisory notice, but we are constantly testing. And by the way, we have a dashboard, WPB.org. Where's that dashboard?
Safe Water dashboard portal. I can get the link right.
All right, we'll announce it. So we have a dashboard where you can, in real time, monitor what the testing levels are. But a lot of it is for us being very proactive and also getting the rights from South Florida Water Management District to start infusing more water from well water into our system, which dilutes the surface water, and particularly during green algae season, if you will. The cyanotoxin is kind of a precursor to green algae, and if left untreated or unaddressed, it will eventually develop into that. And so, yes, by implementing those designs and also being able to be proactive, in other words, once we get those levels, it's more proactive testing, more internal testing. It used to be we would test, send it out, have to wait for 24, 48 hours to get the results back. Now we have equipment that we purchased where we can actually get the test results in-house. We still send it out for confirmatory results, but we can at least get a leg up on where we are by our internal testing process. And then we're posting those numbers on our website. We want to be as transparent as possible. But with these improvements in processes and testing, as well as with proactive strategies, I'm very proud to say that our water is fine, and some of the best around. But again, don't take my word for it. Go to what's the dashboard? All right, so WPB.org, and then they will go to the public utilities. And then once they get to the public utilities tab, they'll see something about customer.
Customer water portal, also called Safe Water Portal.
Okay, there's a portal there in the public utilities where you can, as I said, monitor the quality of the water and the test results in real time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. I see the look on your face.
The transportation that you're talking about, Palm Beach County is talking about doing something which may or may not be liked by us that live off of Okeechobee Boulevard, using Okeechobee Boulevard as a rail line, and the fact that they probably cannot add more lanes. They're going to be taking lanes away, at least one in each direction, with their design. I mean, it may not happen for 10 years, but I don't know how well overall that's going to work. Just trying to use Okeechobee Boulevard into downtown, traffic-wise, between Palm Beach Lakes and Okeechobee Boulevard, and/or going down to Belvedere, it's very difficult for people to go back and forth, taking roadway away. So I don't know what the city itself is working with, what Palm Beach County is trying to do, having to do with going all the way from the shopping center, all the way up State Road 7, and then coming all the way down Okeechobee Boulevard.
Also a very good question, very good observation. What I could tell you is that we're at the table. Now, I don't have the answers yet because we have not yet seen the plans or the designs. I think this has come up in the context where they want to float a bond, transportation bond. And so I think we're years away. Now, that does not mean that we should sleep on it. It just means that we should continue to be engaged with the county and at the table as they are coming out with these designs. I mean, one way you could look at it is if they do have a vibrant, well-run, efficient, clean public transportation light rail system, perhaps it takes more cars off of Okeechobee. But again, I don't know. I don't know if they have some right-of-ways that they're looking to purchase. So stay tuned. But I can assure you, the city will be at the table. One of the first things I did after being elected mayor was to go over to the county in the public meeting and basically express to them my desire to work together going forward. Under my predecessor, the relationship was, shall we say, frosty between the county and the city. And so I just expressed to them as a new administration, and we're certainly willing to work with you, have conversations with you about every topic. It does not mean we'll agree on everything. There are certain issues that are just red lines, the extension of State Road 7 being one of those. But as in any relationship, you don't make the relationship does not improve if you're not talking to each other. So on that line, we will certainly be at the table as these plans are evolved and developed. Another topic of discussion, which the city is in favor of, is having a Fern Street overpass. So as you get closer to downtown, rather than continue to drive Okeechobee past Quadrille, past Australian, having an overpass that will drop you into Fern Street, and that will also take some of the pressure off Okeechobee. But again, this is all stuff that is in design phases. We will be in conversations and ensuring. The other thing that I forgot to mention to you in terms of a positive development, it's not just private developers building buildings, and including residential and commercial. But I'm sure you may have heard that the University of Florida has expressed an interest in developing an urban campus in our downtown area, which is not going to be another undergraduate campus. It will appeal to graduate students who are looking to further their study in the areas of artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and financial technology, and also providing a talent pipeline to many of these businesses that are looking to move here. Fortunately, there was some land downtown, vacant land, owned by three parties: the city, the county, and the developer, Jeff Green. Each of us has agreed to donate our land to this project, and that's going to be very exciting. That will also produce more people downtown. It'll be a tremendous draw, and so yes, we have to continue to look for ways to move people and not cars. But we will be at the table as the plans for any light rail system or other public transportation system they want to do that will be on Okeechobee, and we'll see what it looks like and express our opinion, and hopefully it's something we can work on together with the county.
And another minor subject having to do with what you spoke about, the fire department and their extensive increasing responses. The number of people, especially in the western stations, 7 and 8, and the amount of changes that have done to try and minimize their going out to the county still is not slowing things down the way I think they thought it would. And with the budget and all, and the monies that are collected strictly for the fire department,
Fire assessment fee.
function, to increase the number of them, various people at the various stations, especially out west, is something that's, got to be, they've got to look at all of the responses that keep going on.
I announced that in the upcoming budget year, we will fully staff Fire Station 8, which will be the first time, and that's the one on North Lake, right across from I guess it used to be across from Ibis, but it's a little bit further west, across from what is that, Bay Hill. Anyway, so it'll be the first time that'll be fully staffed, and so we've come up with a plan for that. We are looking for a permanent home for Fire Station 9. They have a temporary home now off of Village, and so we're hoping to be able to identify a more permanent home for them and announce that pretty soon. So your point's well taken, but we're addressing it, and we're making the investments that we need to make to fully staff those stations so that we don't have to rely upon the county or Palm Beach Gardens to help us to serve the citizens of West Palm Beach. But as I said, in this budget year, under my administration, we have found the money to fully staff Fire Station 8 for the first time in its history. And we'll continue to look for ways to beef up. One of the things that I've talked to both police and fire about is making sure that from a strategic standpoint, and when we think about the growth and the growth patterns, that we're staying ahead of the game, and that we're being proactive in putting together the manpower, the equipment that's going to be necessary to service a city that's growing as rapidly as ours. So we are having those conversations, and they're sharpening their pencils, and they'll come back to me and the city administrator with their needs so we can start planning ahead. Now that doesn't mean that we're going to be able to give them everything they need in year one, but if we at least have a strategic plan as to what they might need, assuming growth is 3%, 5%, whatever the numbers are, then we could start incorporating those monies into our budget going forward, so that we're not caught shorthanded at the last minute. So we're trying to stay on top of that, but your question's a very fair one.
That's all I have.
That's all you have?
I mean,
What about you, ma'am? You have anything? And please tell me who you are. I don't know if we've met before.
Several times down at New Bethel.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm sorry.
But you spoke about how everything is growing and businesses are coming and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you mentioned affordable, homes and all of that. But in the meantime, what do people do? I used to work with a young lady who had to move back home with her parents, her and her husband, because the apartment that they were renting went up $400. So So she was working downtown at the courthouse,
Mhm.
making $15 an hour, had to move home with her parents in Port St. Lucie, you know, and I had
And now she's having to commute.
well, she ended up quitting because
Wow.
she wasn't making anything.
Yeah.
With the, you know, the cost of gas and all of that. I live in the Foxhall development,
Okay.
and we bought our home 12 years ago for like $170,000, and I thought that was like, oh my God, how can I pay for this house?
Right, right.
And we had some that recently sold for over $500,000. So there's no way that I could afford to buy a house. And there are so many people that I know, some are living in their cars, you know, some are having to move out of the state. Yeah, we're growing, but people are losing their homes. Some people are homeless because they can't afford the rent. And I know that, you know, we're gonna build homes and what have you, but when is that going to happen? And in the meantime, what happened to them? What do they do?
Well, and again, that's another very good question. I wish I had a very simplistic answer that where I could wave my magic wand and magically we would have these homes. We're not, and you know, we talk about the county and the city working together. You know, the county, quite appropriately, and I've talked to the county administrator, is viewing this as a county-wide problem. It's a crisis. It really is a crisis, and so we are working with the county and other municipalities to explore ways. I know that they're looking at perhaps floating a bond that will also include some monies for more housing options. What we are doing with the city is we're more flexible with some of our zoning. We've also included some incentives. So in certain areas of the city, rather than, you know, just a single story or 2 stories, you know, we're incentivizing developers that they want more height to go up to 5, 6, 7, 8 stories. If they're going to give us some workforce housing, then they can get that additional height. Also talking to them about if you have a project that includes workforce housing, then you know, we'll expedite your permitting and those types. So we're trying to use out of the box thinking. I was on the phone on a Zoom call with a developer out of St. Pete that's looking at that does strictly workforce housing, and they've got a private fund that's looking to invest and build workforce housing, and they're looking very hard at the city of West Palm Beach because of our growth. But again, these are not units that are going to happen overnight. So what we also have to do is be as sensitive as we can to this and try to put as many resources as we can. The city has set aside some dollars to help people with rental assistance and that type of thing. That is not a permanent solution. It's a Band-Aid, but it helps people. It can help people in some very, very desperate times to hopefully get them through. But this is not, and I don't mean to make light of it, because this is, listen, there's nothing more fundamental to one's sense of security than having a roof over their head. You know, particularly if you have a job, you need to get back and forth to your job, you have a family. So I certainly get it, I understand it. And you know, I'm not sitting here going to point fingers, but the state legislature has been for years rating. There's a fund up in Tallahassee called the Sadowski Trust Fund, and when since you bought a house, when you buy property, there are documentary stamps that you have to put on that. A portion of those documentary stamp revenues was to go into this fund over the years. I mean, this has been around for decades, and unfortunately, you know, that grew to be a nice number, and the politicians up in Tallahassee, and that was to be used strictly for affordable housing. And unfortunately, those politicians raided those trust funds to use it to help balance the budget and do other things. Again, not here to point the finger, because it does not take away from the seriousness of the situation we're in now. But had we made the investments then, we'd be in a much better situation than we are now. But I'm hearing numbers as high as 200,000 units that we're in the hole of workforce housing, that we're behind the 8 ball, that we don't have, that we should have in place now. That's how dire the situation is. So, but if you are aware of someone who is, very close to either losing their apartment or home because of rental situations or stuff, please have them call my office and see if there are some programs that we could either direct them to give them some temporary assistance, because it's tough. It is really tough, and homelessness is another serious issue. People are homeless for different reasons, whether it's substance abuse, mental health issues, or where folks simply have hit upon a rough patch. And the city just recently, we had second reading yesterday, where we are requiring landlords for certain types of leases, month-to-month leases, where they have to give extended notice. Used to be 60 days, I think it's 90 days notice before they can increase the rent. Again, that will hopefully buy some time for certain people so they're not hit with these rent increases just at the drop of a hat. But no, this is a very much a crisis situation. And I wish I had an easy answer as to what do we do now. There is no easy answer to that, unfortunately. As I said, we're about 200,000 units behind when it comes to housing that's affordable, workforce housing, where people can just have a roof over their head. George.
Does the city require new developments to proportion out a area or develop more workforce housing?
Well, as I said, we're offering incentives. We can't require that. In certain areas, you could build by right, okay? But for example, in certain neighborhoods, you could build up to like 4 or 5 stories, particularly in the downtown area. But if you wanted to add to that, if you wanted to increase the height, increase the density, we have incentive programs where if you give us a certain percentage, and we got a whole formula that's spelled out, if you give us a certain percentage of that additional square footage, and set that aside or designate that as workforce housing, then yes, you can step to the front of the line to get that additional height. So again, it's more of a carrot than a stick, but many of these. I was on the phone with a developer that's announcing a project in the northern part of the city, and fortunately, a great significant portion of what they're doing there is going to be for workforce housing, and they're going to offer priorities to our first responders, to our teachers, and city employees, because again, those are the ones, who could use a little helping hand at this point in time. I received a letter. There's a consortium of university professors, FAU, PBAU, University of Florida, Kaiser, where we are now, Nova Southeastern. The presidents of universities are forming a consortium, and they sent a letter to the cities as well as to the county expressing the very thing that we're talking about now, that there is a dire crisis for housing, for not only for their students, but for the professors. And, please, they need help. And so, we are, a group of us are sitting down together, as I said, working with the county and other cities to try to figure out what other long-term and short-term solutions we can come up with.
How is the city prepared for hurricane season?
Well, the main thing is getting the word out. With a lot of new people moving down here who have never experienced a hurricane, the first order of business is to get the word out there. I've taped some PSAs, and every opportunity, I've got this newsletter that goes out. Every opportunity, we're trying to get the message out to prepare now. All right. Now the city itself is prepared. I mean, we've got the emergency operations center. We've been through this before, but for all of our citizens, but particularly for those who are relatively new to South Florida, and knock on wood, we've been fortunate. We haven't had a big one in a number of years. I mean, we got a scare with Dorian that hung off the coast in 2019, but we've been fortunate. But you know, we're just trying to get the word out. Prepare now, you know, and we've got a page on our website where we've got a list of hurricane supplies that people should start preparing for. I think we're having. Do you already have the sales tax weekend? Are we still in the middle of sales tax?
Well, it starts Friday again.
Okay, all right, all right. Does that cover hurricane supplies?
Some, because it's called, it's called for like, tents and schools.
Okay, all right, all right. Anyway, but no, the major push is to get the word out there to the citizens to prepare. And now is the time to prepare. You know, you don't want to have to wait until one's sitting off of our coast and the gasoline lines are going to be long, the stores are not going to have anything. So now is the time to stock up. And so we're continuing to get that message out there. All right. Any questions for our men in blue who are sitting back there who've gotten a free meal? You know?
I tried to get them to
Oh, they didn't even
They
eat?
didn't even eat, yeah.
All right.
I don't know who patrol my area. Sometimes it's West Palm and sometimes it's PBSO that comes out.
Vauxhall's West Palm.
Hmm?
Vauxhall's West Palm. Yeah.
Oh, it is?
It is.
Oh, okay.
You have deputies that live in there, I'm sure you know, but that is our jurisdiction.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, the incident that happened at the ballpark a few weeks ago, I don't know if you all, it was on social media, the two girls decided they wanted to have a fight and everyone.
Oh,
Oh,
was
somebody
mad at
got
the
killed.
park, Someone
Yeah.
got killed, you know, how did we miss that?
So I'm Lieutenant Finscoy. I'm the nighttime lieutenant, shift commander. How do you miss it in what sense? What's your
Because I
question?
don't do social media, I don't know how to do it, you know, but everybody knew about it, I didn't, you know, people met there, so.
Yeah, well, you know, not to sound crass, but you're not gonna stop people from getting together and doing silly things together. So our role is to try to reduce as much of that as possible and investigate whatever crimes that occur afterwards. And that's the best we can do, because I'm not gonna stop you from doing something terrible if you're gonna wanna do it, right? Especially if they're two people that are doing it willingly, right? That's how it went out. You know, I look young, but you know, when I was a kid, you get together, you fight in the park, but now you get together, you get fighting in the park, somebody brings a gun and something
Yeah.
terrible goes wrong. So unfortunately, that's what happened in that scenario. So our job is just to investigate that as much as possible and try to reduce that as much as possible when we can, but you're not gonna stop someone from doing something horrible, you know? People acting foolish and being dangerous, you know, risk-averse people aren't necessarily, falling from trees now, you know, so.
I also see on the newsletter that I get to the email, the different, days that the chief is out speaking. I never, see a date that he's in my part of town.
This is Atlanta talks right here, there you go.
I'm Officer Rodney Archer. I am the North End Community Engagement Officer. So we have a northern division and a southern division. I think, George, we were talking earlier, but anything north of Banyan Boulevard, we considered the northern division. So if you just draw an imaginary line out west, if you would fall north end, you'd come to the north meetings, and the south end, which is south of Banyan, you would go to those meetings.
Oh, I just didn't listen to my guess.
Yeah, so they're two, the chief has two north end meetings a month,
Oh, okay.
and the south end, they have two also.
What's the location of those meetings?
For the north end meetings, we have, we've separated into two divisions. We have anything from Banyan to 25th Street, and that's held at the West Palm Beach Police Department, 600 Banyan Boulevard, on the fourth Wednesday of each month. And from the neighborhoods north of 25th up into 59th Street, that's gonna be held at the Florence to George Boys and Girls Club on the second Wednesday of each month. And the times for the meetings are 6:30 p.m. That gives you a chance to get off work and get ready, showered and shaved and stuff. Grab some chicken from the pantry.
All right, so if these are neighborhoods on Okeechobee, so that is south of Banyan. So where are the south meetings held? Do you know that schedule?
I believe Officer Buxton has them in, I believe it's at the police department.
Yeah.
So that would be, but his are at 6, I believe.
All right, Kathleen, are those in our, in the newsletter I send out,
Yes.
the schedule?
Yes.
All right, so I think it was just a matter of understanding where you fall in that.
Where I thought
Well,
I was.
we're gonna remedy that because that was brought to my attention not 5 minutes before we started.
Okay.
So we're gonna have that addressed, so everyone knows where they,
Okay.
Kind of where they fall in there.
Last
so
question.
you can come to any meeting you want.
Oh, okay.
We
And,
serve the city.
okay, last question. When are you all gonna open back up for the public?
Open what back up?
The station itself, because I had to go down to report, incident, and the doors are locked. You have to talk through the thing, whatever. Can't walk in.
Yeah, lobby.
Well, it depends on
Oh,
what
the
time you
lobby.
came. There's certain times, if it was after 5, it might have been closed.
I've been there after 5, I've been before, but I've never been able to
we
come.
have a lobby office.
Yeah, they're daytime, banker hours, 9 to 5, there should be someone that's available and come speak to you, Monday to Friday.
Because I know back in the day, you can just open the door and walk
Yeah.
in before
Well,
the pandemic,
you know,
but I didn't know.
COVID
Yeah.
kind of threw everything around,
Yeah, but
but
I
now
didn't
that
know
it should
if
be
they
available unless there's
that.
something going on or the officer is
Okay.
out.
Yeah, we have a lobby officer, so you get buzzed in by the lady or the gentleman working behind the glass, in the bubble we call it, and they'll notify the lobby officer and he'll come and help you.
Okay.
And then I know that officers join the various HOA meetings by invitation, so that may be another way, if we could let people know when
Yeah.
they're joining the HOA meeting.
And I always tell everyone that comes to the meetings, grab your neighbors, word of mouth is the best, because you know who lives next door to you. Tell them, hey, I'm going to the meeting, you need a ride? Bring them along.
Absolutely, absolutely. And George and Steve, you all, we used to have the meetings down at City Hall periodically. We'll probably resume those next year. But I wanted these meetings where I'm getting out into the communities to serve as kind of a reintroduction, if you will, after COVID to the mayor and what's going on in the city. So we'll come up with a schedule where different HOA presidents will come down. I think it was once a month for the western communities, right? Quarterly. Okay, all right. So we'll get that schedule back up again. All right. Any other questions? Well, listen. Thank you for coming. I mean, I appreciate you being there. We have this tape now, so we'll be able to stream it online. But I always say when I come to these community meetings, this is the foundation of a democratic government. All right. We are public servants. We serve you. And so for us to have the opportunity, for you to have the opportunity to look me in the eye and ask the questions and demand what you want from the city, that's what this is all about. You do have a voice, and I want you to feel like you have a voice and that you were heard. So thank you for taking time out of your schedules. What time is dinner, Steve?
When I get home.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure. I want to make sure you're not late. I want to make sure you're not late. So.
In our own community, we have our own cafe.
Well, that's right. Okay, you want to? Okay. I mean, you're taking it to the Riverwalk Cafe. You're not taking it to somewhere fancy. No, you guys have a very nice cafe there. That's very nice. Okay, so if there are no other questions, this meeting's adjourned. And there's more food there. Help yourself, please.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.